Buddy, it's your boy Sham. We here for another chapter discussion. Chapter 1092 went crazy. It went crazy. But listen, there's so much stuff going on in the One Piece world right now. We had the live action. I have just finished the live action. It took me a bit. I'm not gonna lie, it took me a bit. I'm gonna have a review on the live action coming out soon. I'm gonna review the entire series. It was tough, but I just finished it like 2 days ago, so. We here now talking about chapter 1092 of One Piece, and oh my gosh, this was an amazing chapter. We got to finally see a little bit of that Kizaru versus Luffy, but there's so much more, so I just want to jump right into it. Let's do it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Everything matters, but I appreciate you guys tuning in. Let's get it. So, we start off with the cover story. It's just Jinbei. And he has these weird kind of fish. You guys know those fish that they have like these suction cups under like their chins or whatever, and then they just like stick to different fish and stuff. Whales and whatnot, turtles and things, whatever. Symbiotes, I think is what they're called. But it was a cool little cover story. It was kind of cute, to be honest. Just anytime I see Jinbei swimming around with the fishes, I'm always gassed. So we start the chapter at Marijoa. And it looks like Kuma, who has been scaling and climbing the red line, he finally made it to Marijoa. And so we're seeing, I guess, how they're going to solve that issue. Like, who's going to try and stop him? So we have those pointy-hatted soldiers at Marijoa. They have him, like, all chained up, trying to, like, hold him down. But he's trying to, like, break out and go somewhere else. And so we see that Akainu, he comes in. Fleet Admiral Akainu comes in to save the day. Where are the Holy Knights? Are there no other combatants on Marijoa besides the admirals? Because, like, the admirals can't always be there to save the day. But I'm feeling like the Holy Knights are probably a lot more reserved in terms of what they fight for and their reasoning for actually stepping into battle. So unless, again, Imu is, like, directly threatened, I don't think they're going to take action because they have other people, other stations like the Marines, that they can kind of delegate that to. So kind of makes sense, kind of doesn't make sense. I don't care though, because I was gassed to see Akainu kind of come in. So before we see Akainu fight Kuma, we see more about the Celestial Dragons. And they're talking about the food situation, which we've been hinted at because obviously the Revolutionary Army has started to kind of dwindle their food supplies and steal their food supplies from different marine ships. And so now we're starting to see some of the backlash with that. And of course, the Celestial Dragons are the worst scum in the One Piece universe in terms of human beings and morality and just fairness, patience, everything. So we see them basically complaining about the food, about Akainu's ability to handle these situations, about Kuma being a slave, how he needs to be executed for attacking. And so I just thought that this was an interesting thing to see because there's a point here where Akainu's basically talking to himself. I don't know if he's talking to himself or if he's talking directly to Kuma, but he's just saying like Kuma should have already lost his mind. He should have already lost anything, his will, his own sense of will that makes him a person. So he's no longer a person with a will. But when they start fighting, we see that he sheds a little bit of blood. So that actually looked like it surprised Akainu a bit. Like he kind of seemed like, oh, like he didn't know how to kind of respond to something like that. Which was interesting to me because obviously the Marines have to deal with the Seraphim that's very similar in terms of situation, but maybe the Marines knew Kuma before. I mean, I guess they had to have known Kuma before he was modified. And so I guess kind of to see that drastic change could be, I guess, daunting for some people, but for Akainu, we know he's more about like that serious justice. So he's more curious, like whose will are you moving on? Like, who's giving you this energy when you don't have a will of your own? You don't have anything inside of you anymore that should be propelling you to take these actions. So where are you going? What is your purpose? And I feel like that's kind of where he's a little bit more confused and what he's confused about. Now, he says something that I find super interesting where he says, you're just a puppet now, so where are you going? And this is after he hits him with one of his attacks. I think it was that attack that we saw where he like rains magma down, but there was one attack where he just boom, and he like basically takes the right side of Kuma's face off, just like when he was fighting Whitebeard in the anime and like his stash came off. Apparently in the manga it's like his whole face comes off on that scene. So it's very similar here. And then as Kuma is like, he like, it looks like he loses a leg also because of the magma. And then he just like, boom, is gone. And so this is when the celestial dragons are getting on his case, like, hey, there's no way you just let him escape. You're the fleet admiral, right? And then that's when we see he's like, oh yeah, where are you going? You have no will of your own, no mind of your own. You're just a puppet now. And I thought that was interesting just because if you think about the overall theme, and we're going to get into this as we go to Egghead, but if you think about the overall theme of this chapter, that actually is a very important piece just because we can see Akainu. We don't know if this is something he wants to do or not, but he's there and he has to obviously follow orders or follow a mandate because you have to protect the celestial dragons. That's what your main job is all about. So he has to do that even if those people that he's protecting aren't necessarily the best people. So when he's saying to Kuma that you're a puppet, and Kuma relatively, I guess he really is a puppet with his own source of will, we don't know where that's coming from. Maybe it was like pre-programmed. Maybe it was pre-programmed into Kuma before he lost his will. So that way, if anything happens to Bonnie or if anything happens to, I don't know, maybe the Straw Hats even, because he's protected them before, that he would run to their aid again. But either way, I digress. I just think that the theme of this chapter is kind of going on will and not doing or not following your own path or your own will, right? Having to follow the will of others. And so we get to Egghead, and now that we're at Egghead, we can see a little bit more of what's going on here. So Kuma's gone. Akainu dealt with the situation. Now we're on Egghead. And so when we get to Egghead, we can see the battle is still going on. Not just the battle between Luffy and Kizaru, the Marines and the Vice Admirals and the mechanic robots. So the mechanic robots are still fighting. We see a couple of them get taken down. Nothing crazy. I mean, they finally made it to the lava phase or the Ribio phase or whatever. So we have the fodder Marines. They're not really doing much, but we get to see after some of that kind of panning, we finally get to see Luffy versus Kizaru. And I feel like this is what everybody has actually been waiting for. So now we see Luffy versus Kizaru, and I'm not going to cap. Kizaru looks like he is just playing with Luffy right now. Like, so Luffy's in Gear 4 Snake Man, right? So he's his fastest form. He has strength. This is the form he used to beat Katakuri, right? He should have at least some future sight in there to deal with the speed of Kizaru. And so we can just see he's like boom, 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 boom. But Kizaru's there, kind of like what he was doing against Sentomaru, and he's just blocking. And he's kind of like, he's talking. They're having a conversation at the same time. So I don't know if they're like feeling each other out or what's going on. But as he's like blocking these hits, he's like, I can see you're formidable. Haha, this is how you beat Kaido. And then he starts asking questions to Luffy. Like, he's like, I just want to know that you're a pirate. Why are you protecting Vegapunk? He's part of the world government. He's an ally of the world government. Like, what is he doing? Make it make sense. The math ain't mathin'. That's basically what he's saying. And we all know Luffy ain't about to have no conversation with you, Kizaru. He ain't about to tell you why he's doing what he's doing. All he says is, why do you guys want to fight or kill Old Man Apple? Old Man Apple. And that's such a classic Luffy. He's not going to think too much about it. He doesn't really care. All he can really see is like, hey, I like this guy. You're trying to hurt this guy. I'm going to protect this guy. So now you got to deal with me. And that's that. And so, whoa, one of the coolest parts of this fight is as they're kind of going through this dialogue, right? And they're fighting each other. Kizaru goes from the island to all the way outside of the island. And literally, and like that. And obviously he's light, so man is super, super quick. So he's literally right on the island fighting him. And the only time I noticed that he was so far is when Luffy was like, how far did he fly away? And then we pan and we can see Kizaru all the way on the outside of Egghead Island. Like literally all the way on the outside of Egghead Island, like when they were coming originally. And then we see him start to break down. His light starts to like break down. And then he says, what does he say? He says, after all, acceleration is power. And then we see him break down and then zoom, boom, and he kicks Luffy. and bop, 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 Luffy goes flying. And this is Luffy in Gear 4 Snake Man, okay? The fastest form ever. He still can't touch Kizaru. And the other thing that's pretty cool about Kizaru's ability, and I feel like everybody has known for a long time that Kizaru's ability is pretty OP, and we're not even seeing an awakening yet. You know what I mean? But what's also cool is he's late. So like there's a scene where he's coming back to kick Luffy, and he's kind of like, Luffy, right? Because it's bright. So like, I don't know, maybe Luffy's gonna have to pull out some goggles. He might, well, he has hockey, so he doesn't need the light punching gloves, but I feel like he's gonna need something to kind of help him out here in terms of dealing with Kizaru. And me, personally, I don't think that this is a fight where Luffy's just gonna win out flat, or flat out. You know what I mean? We're facing one of the strongest admirals. The last time we faced them was when we went against them at Sabaody, and he kicked our asses. And we're about to get into that because as he kicks Luffy and he's flying, he actually hits the Vega Force 1 that's carrying Frankie, Bonnie, and the other Vegapunk, right? So he hits them, and as he knocks Luffy through it, you can see like Luffy destroys Vega Force 1, Frankie, Bonnie, Stella, they all fall. The Going Sunny falls also, and there's a scene where Frankie's like, oh my god, the Going Sunny. But thank goodness the Going Sunny's okay, because we can't be having a fucking Traffy and Eustace Captain Kid moment where we're losing our ships. Like, nah, we can't have that. We're Yonko crew. None of that. So the ship's okay, thank goodness. We see Bonnie confront Kizaru, and then there's a little bit of a dialogue between them here, where Kizaru is basically saying, hey, I'm here to attack Vegapunk, the person who you've been wanting to kill. Bonnie's like, that's no longer my target. She like hits him with like this weird wavy flaily arm thing, and I don't even know where this part of Bonnie's ability comes from, because it kind of looks to me anyways like it's like mechanical arms. I don't know, like there's wires or something coming out. It doesn't look like she like aged her body to make her arms like old, you know what I mean? So I'm not really sure. I feel like every time we see Bonnie's ability, it's always a little bit different. And so learning a bit more about her ability, I think is going to have to take place at some point, because I still think that she'll probably play a part in helping us escape. But now that the Vega Force 1 is destroyed, who knows? She might not. But anyways, she attacks Kizaru, and Kizaru's just like, listen, I don't want to hurt anybody else. He already told Luffy he wasn't trying to kill Vegapunk because, you know, they knew him. Once he destroyed Vega Force 1, you could see on his face he looked kind of like sad almost, right? He looked definitely perplexed. He definitely looked like he wasn't happy about it, because he knew that was Vegapunk's dream and Sentomaru, and he's been knowing these guys for a while. And so obviously when he's fighting Bonnie, he's like, I don't want to hurt anybody else that I know, but he has a job to do. And so he like dodges it so clean. He has like his back foot just like boom, hits her right in the back of the head, and she goes flying, zoop, right through the right through. Like I'm pretty sure she goes through all of like the protection that Luffy got knocked through as well. And so damn, I hope you're good, Bonnie. You better be okay. I mean, you know, you're a member of the Worst Generation. I'm sure you're fine, but damn, Kizaru is not playing any games here. And the other thing about his speed is that he's just too quick. He's literally from one half of the island to the other half of the island in no time. So Frankie, and I was waiting for this moment, Frankie was gonna hit him with that radical beam, you know what I'm saying? He was gonna hit him with that radical beam, but Kizaru was just gone. Was literally just gone. So it was just Frankie, the Sunny. And then what we see is that Frankie calls on the Denden Mushi, he calls like Usopp and them back at the Labo phase, and he's like, guys, be careful. I think Kizaru's heading towards you. And then we literally see Kizaru standing in the middle of the room, right in front of Vegapunk. Like, they're all shocked. Like, how did you get here? It reminded me of like Kurko no Basket. Like Kurko, always just shocking people just being there. You know what I mean? Just being there. So he's in there and he's basically saying like, hey, Vegapunk, I destroyed your plans. The Vega Force 1 is complete because they finally cracked the code. I wonder what the code was, but they finally cracked the code, the Vegapunks. And so the Vegapunk asks him, he's like, hey, how's everything going on your end, Frankie? We just brought down the barrier, so you guys should be able to take Vega Force 1 now and go. Kizaru was like, nah. your plans are messed up, boy. We done destroyed that. You guys aren't going nowhere. And then we see him. He's about to clap Vegapunk. He's about to wet him up. Just end him. And then Luffy comes out of nowhere with his giant form and grabs that man. Grabs that man. This is the first time I feel like we've seen Kizaru. I don't know. I wouldn't say he got like outdone in speed, but like, have we ever really seen another time where he's been like caught? Like caught? Like the only time he's been deterred is Rayleigh on Sabaody, and then in Marineford when Ben Beckham pointed his gun at him. But I don't think we've ever seen him immobilized, and that was kind of cool to me to see. He just grabbed him, and then obviously he has hockey, so we can see tangible. Just grabs him, and Luffy's like, "Damn, you almost killed me, bro. I had to go through the freaking barrier twice. Thought he was gonna die, you know." So now we have Luffy. He's back. He has Kizaru. It seems like everything is about to go really well. The Vega Force 1 is broken. Kizaru seems to know about Luffy's ability too. I'm not sure if he had a conversation with Saturn about it, but he can see, he's like, oh, and he looks kind of worried. He looks kind of worried here. And he's like, oh, so this is the power that they were talking about. Like he kind of mentions it as if he knew or heard a little bit about it. And then we pan over and we see the ancient robot in the basement. Activate. Huh? So the Vega Force 1 done, but miraculously, conveniently, we got the ancient robot that's supposed to be super, super huge, and that's supposed to run on an eternal flame, i.e. the sun god. Nika activates, and he comes in his giant form. So I feel like the obvious kind of thought process in this one is going to be like, Luffy fought Rob Lucci in Gear 5 before, so why didn't it activate then? That was my immediate thought. But then I started to think about like location, and I started to think maybe you need to be in like range, because I know the Drums of Liberation activated at that point too when he fought Rob Lucci, but it was really more of like a flash fight, you know? Even when I'm trying to like convince myself, it doesn't really sound like I'm convinced, because I'm still like, there's so many like different parts that I'm like, maybe he had to be a giant, because if Joy Boy was really a giant, when Luffy goes giant Gear 5th, maybe it resonates more. I don't know. Honestly, this chapter was amazing. I give it a 8 out of 10. I really want to see more of the Luffy and Kizaru fight. I didn't think that he was going to go Gear 5th right away, but now that he's in Gear 5th, I'm excited to see what's going to happen next week. I'm confused though. I'm confused about the whole Gear 5th with the robot. There's so many people questioning whether the robot's going to be on our side or whether the robot's going to be an enemy of Luffy, which is interesting. I don't think it's the case, but it's interesting. So you guys tell me, what did you think about this chapter? What did you guys think about the fights in between, in the chapter itself? Is Kizaru the fastest person in the verse or what? And how can you beat this guy? Honestly, do you think that Kizaru is going to get slapped in this arc at this point? Do you think that he's going to get defeated? Or do you think that Luffy's going to win? How are they going to escape? Do you guys think they're going to get separated? There's so much to talk about. I think I'm going to create another video just about literally what's going to happen between Luffy and Kizaru. Who's going to win? What's going to be the aftermath? And I really want to know how you guys feel about the speed of Kizaru. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Thank you guys for tuning in. It was another amazing chapter. Tell me what you thought about the One Piece live action. I'm going to drop a video on that for a review. I'm out. Peace.